Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leanne Wyville and I'm representing Impact Innovation Group, working with you this week on a series of webinars for Queensland Small Business Week. Today's webinar is with Will Gooderson from Crowe Horwath, and he'll be running us through the 10 golden rules of business basics. But before we do that, while people are still arriving, I'm going to run through some of the tools we have for the webinar for those people who haven't been involved with the webinar or a Citrix GoToWebinar program before. Now your screen will probably look something like this. You'll have a slide that you can see, and over here on the right, usually on the right hand side, there will be a control panel. That's your control panel, and hopefully that's the only control panel you can see and not mine, because usually we only see each other's control panels. But try and keep this alive on your screen if you can. If you do need to switch at any time to go to another program, a tip: this little button here with the arrow, make sure you reduce the control panel before you flip into another program, and then it will always be there when you need it. Okay, so if you want to keep that also there, you can click on the view icon and auto hide and uncheck auto hide control panel. We do have a couple of tools that we have to make the webinar a bit more interactive. You'll notice that in your control panel on the left-hand side there is a hand tool, and there might be times when you're asked to raise your hand, and this just helps to let us know your engagement with various people in the webinar. We also have typing in questions. If a question occurs to you, type it in as you think about it in this box here. What we don't have is the facility today to use the webcam, so we're going to speed through, right through Will's presentation. We'll go from start to finish, and then we'll have the questions at the end. So as those questions occur to you, type them in this little section here, and we will collate those for later in the day, for later at the end of the presentation. We also have a handout. Will has kindly agreed for his slides to be shared with everyone today. I recommend that you download these now, because once the webinar is over, you won't be able to access the handout. So find this section here, handouts, in your control panel, and click the handout that's for today's webinar. You may find that you can look at that, depending on your setup, look at that during the webinar, or it becomes a record for afterwards, and I can assure you that it has some excellent tips in it. Okay, now I'm just checking. We have so many people already arrived. That's terrific. I'm just going to do a hand test. If you can see my screen and see the screen that says William Gooderson Business Basics, please raise your hand. Excellent. Looks like most people have found that tool. That is great. Okay. Now what I'd like to do is just check. Looks like a couple of people are already using the questions pane, so I better go in there. And is the sound working? Jill, if you can't hear me, then unfortunately the sound is not working for you. It must be working for everybody else though, because you've been able to answer my question. All right, now I'm going to introduce you to Will Gooderson. Will's with Crowe Horwath in Brisbane. Will is an experienced management consultant who recently joined Crowe Horwath's performance consulting team. Will has over 13 years experience in project and program delivery, risk and compliance management, process improvement, leadership and communication, asset and stakeholder management across key sectors, including infrastructure, government, defence and health. Now, Will's focus is on collaboration and working with clients to achieve their strategic objectives through compliance, communication and high-level problem solving. So just now I'm going to hand the reins over to Will. Welcome to the webinar, Will.
Leanne, thank you very much, and welcome everybody. So thank you for taking the time today Just to provide you a bit of a background, as Leanne has previously mentioned, my own experience. From a business basics perspective, I have worked both for family companies, large multi-corporates, working within government as well, and this has provided me quite a unique insight into the varying opportunities and experiences that businesses can learn over the course of their development. Personally, my wife has started her own company as well, so we are indeed beginning along this journey, and I'm trying to help her where we can, acknowledging the fact that as a husband it may not always be well received information. However, the aim of today is to provide you with 10 golden rules that have been identified through a number of sources, both my own experiences, those within personnel within the firm itself, mindful that we are spread both nationally and across the Tasman as well, and taking some key experiences from the IBIS world, which is a statistical analysis business database that's held across Australia, and they have identified, by looking at 2,000 businesses over 10 years, and roughly 500 sectors, 10 key areas or rules that work very well when you are looking to establish or expand your existing business. So moving on, I will briefly cover the top 10 points before we go into a bit more detail. So as you can see, the first 5, we're looking at focusing, specialising, what it is that you are looking to offer. What is it, that market offering that you're proposing? Thinking about the innovation and the documentation of your new business or your new practice. Look at your strengths, identify what they are and how you can best use them. Consider cash flow and financial management, because that's always going to be quite important when you're setting up a business. Moving on to looking at the roles and accountabilities, who does what within the business. Look beyond your own business. Don't be afraid to look at the competition. Pursue that world best practice. So lift your own standards. So as you're starting out or as you're looking to expand, you need to be at the front of the pack if you want to succeed. Look at trying to build your intangible assets. And then finally, you need to be the inspiration and the guide for your business. Okay, so it's looking at those business basics and moving forward. So firstly, let's look at the focus on a single industry. Okay, why are you unique? What is it about your industry? What is it about your business? What is it that you are looking to offer that clients haven't offered or received before? Or what is that new offering out there that is going to be better than the competition? You need to have a clear understanding of what it is your product is. What are you trying to provide to clients and customers? Who is it for? The most important thing is ensuring that you are targeting the right client for your service offering. If you're trying to aim for a specific socio-economic group, a certain demographic, make sure you understand who they are. What are they going to be interested in? And this is very key for when we move on to some of the later points in terms of how you're targeting what your business opportunity will be. What is it that they want? What is it that your clients want? You need to have an idea of what the objective or goal of your business is. In doing so, you want to be developing a business plan. You need to have it documented so that you can refer back to it at a later stage. You've also then got something that you can share with others, either within your team or external, who are providing you assistance, to work out whether or not you're doing the right thing. Do they understand where it is you're going and what it is that you're trying to target? If you already have a business plan, when was it that you last reviewed it? You want to stay up with the times. Again, looking to the other 9 points, these are things that you should be asking yourself and reviewing the business plan as you come across these other ideas or new opportunities or tweaks to your existing business plan. And do you have the service and product which is actually going to deliver on that industry offering? Okay, it's a very simple question, but it's making sure that once you've come up with your business plan, you are looking back and saying, right, okay, what is it that I want? And is it going to be addressing that need? Okay, so moving on, we're now going to concentrate on our industry positioning. Okay, what is the market that you're targeting? You've identified what it is your offering is, but what is that market that you're going to be targeting? How high are you going? Are you going for a premium high-end product? Therefore, there's obviously going to be expected higher costs. You're looking at certain demographics. Or are you going to the middle or the value end? All of your businesses, looking from a basics perspective, could be targeting any one of these. So make sure you know and understand what it is that you are trying to target. You look at successful products such as Apple, they acknowledge the fact that people are prepared to pay $1,000 plus for a phone, when arguably there are cheaper offerings on the market that could deliver the same capability. But they've acknowledged and they're pitching in that premium end, and then they can roll out all of their products that sit at that premium end. A keyboard that is going to cost you $70, $80, you could pick up something which probably does just as good a job, if not better, down at a lower end, but from a different brand. So know where it is you're looking to position yourself. You need to understand your regional demographic as part of this. If you are pitching a premium service within a regional, rural, remote community, are you then going to be looking at a much, much smaller base of people who are able to take up your offering? Similarly, if you're going metropolitan, is it a case of you're looking to go to the north side of your city, the south side? Where is it that people wanting your product are going to be looking? If you're going from a more national perspective, depending on where your end product is looking to be, you need to just take on board the fact that your industry positioning is going to be targeting these specific areas. The pricing as a result is going to be reflective of your community. The price that someone will pay in Brisbane compared to what they will pay in Sydney is going to be different. Similarly, if you're going from Brisbane up to Mount Isa, again, it's going to be a different offering and it's going to be a different price. As a result, you then need to tailor your advertising accordingly. Taking all of these points on board, you're then asking yourself the question, is it different from what my competitors are portraying to their customers? If you're looking to bring in a new offering, what is making you different from your competitors? And as a result, your marketing and promotional activities supporting these values. Intellectual property is going to become very important as you take it from a business basics into a more progressive state. A lot of businesses fall risk to the fact that information tends to be held in the person who may have come up with the idea or the people who are brought on board within their specialist fields. From a management consultancy perspective, it's often that I will go out to clients and their biggest concern is that they've just had a turnover of staff, or the mood within the office is quite temperamental, and as a result there's a good chance they're going to lose a lot of their capability. If they're not documenting, if you're not actually ensuring that you've written down what it is you've got, be it through policies or procedures, then there's a chance that people will walk away with those ideas. You need to be considering, as a point of this, your unique strategic position and where it sits in the marketplace. These four cornerstones that make up the strategic positioning, your brand and your value proposition, the continuous improvement and the product. You need to be considering how you're owning it, the fact that anything that you release is going to be under your branding. Are you looking after it? Are you protecting it? Are you making sure that someone else can't come along, look at your idea and take it away, either through the purchase of a particular software that you're using or taking on board your staff to better utilize their own systems? Outsourcing is something that may be required right at the beginning of your setup, or it may come online later on. Of note is the fact that you need to focus on your strengths whenever you are starting up your business. Okay, right at the beginning in the basics, you need to be looking at what is it that you as an individual or within your new team do well. What is it that you don't do well? What is it that you would need to outsource? Arguably, you may be able to learn how to do particular skills, but would it be more effective, would it be cheaper to outsource that capability? Outsourcing can often look quite expensive, but if you do a cost breakdown as to how much time it might take you and your team to develop that knowledge, what the risk is if you go wrong when you're actually trying to deliver that new capability, it is often better to look at outsourcing and trying to work at a better way to address it. Okay, what percentage of your time is spent each week understanding activities that you are not good at? If it is starting to take up a considerable amount of time, this is a question where you've got to start saying, should I be outsourcing that particular area? If you've come up with a brand new business idea, but you have no understanding as to how to deliver it utilizing the equipment, it could be a maintenance side of things, as shown on the slide, the building and plant repairs. If you are not a builder, if you are not a mechanic, but you are using either an infrastructure of some description or machinery to deliver your offerings, then you need to be considering, am I going to be outsourcing that? Personally, I know that I could not fix my car if something went wrong with it, so I would outsource that as a car owner. It's a similar thing you should be applying when you're looking at the very basics of setting up your business. Moving on from outsourcing is the question over ownership. Now, it's fully acknowledged that there are times when you will need to own your assets or that you will need to own particular things. But the question you should be asking is, what are the essential hard assets required for the operation of your business? Okay, what do you need to own? What do you not need to own, or could you lease? If you are having to buy things that you don't already own, you need to understand how much it is going to cost for the purchase of that, and then any ongoing maintenance. Similarly, once you've worked that out, you can then look back and say, actually, how much would it cost if I was to lease that particular item? If I'm leasing something, how much cash is this going to be freeing up? For example, if you are looking at your initial startup and you need to purchase assets that are going to be valued at a total of $10,000 for an initial one-off purchase and an ongoing maintenance fee of $5,000 every year, you're looking at $15,000 in that first year. If, however, there's an option for it being leased at $4,000 every year over a 10-year period, you then need to start running those numbers and working out, is it better to have the cash flow up front, having that additional $11,000 in your pocket so that you can utilize it better in the early days, or is it something that you need to invest in? Must you buy it now? Is it essential? Cash flow is king, and you need to consider any expenditure you're going to be making. Similarly, when you're considering leasing, look at the long term. How long is that lease going to be locked in for? What is your business looking to do? Refer back to the first point in your consideration of a business plan. If your business is looking to double over the next 5 years, is whatever asset you are looking to purchase or lease going to be able to grow with that ongoing expansion? If it's not, take a step backwards, reassess it. Go back to your business plan, identify where you're going, and then look at the assets that you are looking to bring on board. The virtual corporate structure is all about acknowledging the fact that you need to know how much money it's going to cost you to deliver what's going on for your new business. Okay, we're talking the basics here. We're going back and we're making sure we've mapped out what it is we are going to be expending, what we're expecting to receive, taking on board all of those little extra costs. There's obviously a list up on the slide there of potential numbers to consider, but it may be different for your own business because every business is different. Acknowledge what you own, acknowledge what you're going to need to pay for, acknowledge ongoing costs, and acknowledge your one-off costs. Business scorecard is very critical in terms of identifying where you need to be. This also provides you the opportunity to gather data on your new business, and then you can assess it. If you know every month you need to be hitting these figures to make yourself profitable, track it over the next 6 months. If you get to the 6-month point and you're looking back and you notice that you're having real issues either covering wages, picking up your ICT bills, then you need to ask the question, right, what am I doing? What do I need to tweak? Refer right back to your business plan again. As part of the business plan, you want to know where you're going from a growth perspective, both in terms of size as an organization, your distribution network, your sales. It provides you with an overall view of what the expectation is. And if something's going wrong, it's much better to have it documented so that you can quickly identify. If you can see, for example, that your wages are blowing out, there's something that hasn't been correctly considered in the initial startup. As part of the business plan, you'll have put down an expectation for your wages. You need to work out why you're not covering those costs. It's much better to set all of this up right at the beginning. Otherwise, you risk all of these problems escalating, and all of a sudden, you have ended up with an enormous deficit that you cannot fill. The closer or the harder you assess these things, the better you're going to be at it. Going back to the point 4 on outsourcing, consider, is this an area that you specialize in? Do you know what your expected outgoings are going to be? If not, look at somebody who can advise you. Look at what might be out there in terms of demonstrated capability, and get someone to assist if it's not an area of strength. Getting the financial management is going to be key, because if you don't understand where it is you're going, if you don't have the money to provide it, then your business is going to shut up shop far quicker than you'd want it to. Moving forward, we're now looking externally. Okay, you've now established your business plan. You've got an idea as to where it is you're going, but you need to be looking beyond your own business as well. The reason why businesses or companies are always adapting is because they're always looking at what the competition is up to. A prime example is where Nokia, who at one stage were the most dominant mobile phone capability within the world, they were one of the largest companies, they had astronomical sales. They were providing a service where an asset had a 7-day battery life. It could make phone calls, it could send text messages, and that was their core business. The competition decided that actually society was progressing and technology was coming online, so they felt that the consumer would quite happily sacrifice battery life and durability of a phone to be able to provide access to the web. Nokia didn't address this, they didn't behave in a reactive manner, and as a result, they literally crashed overnight. Their sales fell off the chart. All of a sudden, all of their overheads were absolutely consuming them, and the birth of the iPhone or the smartphone came online and completely revolutionized. It's exactly the same when you're looking at your own business basics. Look at the competition. What are they doing? What do you think the next best idea is going to be? Have a look around when it comes to a local business. What local businesses in your area or in your field have held your attention through their marketing? What is it that is attracting you towards a competitor? What is it they do that appeals? When have you last actually looked at your own business education to understand what's going on? There could be a seminar that talks about the latest technology within your specific space. Have you attended it? Do you know what industry best practice is considered at this moment? It's a good idea to keep yourself abreast of these things. Whilst you're developing what your current service offering is going to be, you need to be looking towards that next step. Similarly, tie it up into your business plan. Identify and document it so that you can assess it. You can see in 6 months, are those ideas being realized? Where is everything going? And don't be afraid to look for strategic partners. There are other people out there who may be doing a similar offering or may have something that could bolster your own offering. Partnership is a very effective way of being able to expand your business, especially in the early days when you've got somebody who may be established in the market and be able to provide an opportunity to open more doors for you. Closely linked then is looking at what the world's best practice is. What global brand name do you readily recall? Ask yourself that question. What springs to mind? I gave an example earlier of Apple. That's straight off the top of my head. It is a brand that is very, very easy to identify, and it is something that when an advert comes on, you can almost tell within the first couple of seconds that is an Apple ad. So that is very good marketing. Yes, they are a global multi-billion-dollar organization, but there's nothing to say that you couldn't end up at that stage in the future. Getting the basics right, looking and learning from those who've already done it. Everything is a case of reinventing the wheel. It's just how you take your particular slant. You've got to ask yourself, if there is someone out there doing something effectively, why are they doing it effectively? What can I learn from them? What is that benchmark that is out there at the moment? And what is it that they are doing that is better than anyone else? Arguably, Apple is producing an almost identical offering to, say, Samsung with their new phones. Yes, if you take the bad hype and the issues that have occurred around the Samsungs, that aside, you still have two phones which both offer an ability to play games, to get on the internet, to make phone calls, to message. But Apple have developed their branding, they have developed their marketing very, very well. They have targeted, they've almost locked people in. Personally, at home, we're in a position where my wife and I both have Apple phones. My wife bought one, and then she got herself a Mac. All of a sudden, we're in a position where Apple has locked us in, because now when I'm buying a phone, I'm getting a Mac. And if we're going to get a tablet, then the iPad is the most logical choice. So instantly, you have got a family who have bought 4 Apple products. I know that I'm pimping up Apple here, but the reality is they are very, very good at business and marketing. So there is nothing wrong with looking and learning from what they are doing. As we get towards the end of the presentation, you're now focusing on a key core business and how it is that you operate in the background. Your culture is going to be extremely important to whether or not you can retain clients, but arguably more important, your own staff. You need to have a positive outlook. Can do and happy to help, very, very good buzzwords. If a business knows that they can pick up the phone and talk to you and say, yep, I can do that, I'm happy to assist, then they are getting reassurance. The day you're turning around and going, oh, I don't know about that, or it's going to be difficult, that could be a new customer who wants to bring online a $100,000 organization. But you have then just basically put out that messaging that you're not open for business. It's quite possible that when you answer the phone, you are at maximum capacity. However, there's always an opportunity to reassess how you are delivering your business to try and pick up this new opportunity. The culture, the way you portray yourself, the brand, it is all very, very important, especially within smaller markets in the earlier days. If you are setting up a new business in your town, everybody is going to know about it very quickly. You want to be known as the business that can rather than the business that can't. The business that can't does not get repeat customers or will struggle to pick up new clientele. Similarly, you should also be looking at what your customers' perception is of your business. Are your customers positive about interacting with you? Have you asked them? These days, it's very, very easy to do surveys where you can see what people think of how your business has been delivered. Looking at a large brand, Airbnb is a prime example. Once you have stayed, you write a review, and the person you've stayed with similarly returns a favor. So instantly, you have got a branding out there as a personal business owner for an Airbnb setup. Reviews are very easy. They take 2 to 3 seconds for an individual to complete. It could just be a star rating. It may be a more personal experience when they're coming in. How did you find the service? What could we do better? Don't be afraid to ask what we could do better. It's a question that a lot of businesses tend not to worry about because they think to themselves, oh, I'm basically acknowledging that I may have weaknesses or flaws. The best way that you can learn is by taking on board the feedback that is provided from others. Also, don't be afraid, or I would recommend that you develop a documented strategy for resolving your complaints that customers may raise. It's always going to be a case of there could be that one customer, or you could have that one bad job where problems arise, timeframes are delayed, the service offering isn't as good as was anticipated. You need to have some way to address it quickly. If you're going to address it quickly, you're going to resolve it, you're actually going to put the customer in a better frame of mind. Work out what it is that you need, what are you trying to get, or what are you trying to support from a customer angle when addressing their problem. Each business will have their own specific approach, but make sure you've got yours. If you have that first complaint coming through the door and you don't have a way of responding to it, you're going to open yourself up to a lot of problems. Stay on the front foot. It's always good, especially when you're walking into a store. Imagine the feeling when you're greeted with happy, smiley faces. Can I get you anything? Would you like anything more? Do you have any questions? Don't be afraid to be that business. Everybody is always going to respond far better to a smile than they are a frown. And then finally, lead before managing. Personally, I have led large organizations, and one of the essays I once had to write was, what is the difference between leadership and management? And it's quite important to understand that leading, or you lead people, you manage work. It's very simple and straightforward. You need to be inspiring. You're the person that everyone is looking at. This business, we're right at the basics here. This is your business. You've come up with this idea. How are people going to perceive the business whenever they see you? You are the brand, especially in the early days when you're getting out and about. You need to be perceived as somebody who takes an interest. You're inspiring your staff. If people are happy with where they're working, they're not going to be looking elsewhere. Especially when you are in a startup phase, when you're in the very early days of an organization, it's very key to bring in those staff and make them feel part of the team, make them feel welcome. It may be that in the early stages you are unable to provide competitive salaries. So what then differentiates you from the competitor? If you have a culture that is very inspiring, if you are leading, if you are interested in your people, if you are rewarding success, then you're going to make more people talk about you. You've then got your own little marketing going on with your people. They're out, they're saying how great it is to work for your business. It could be if you're in a local town. Again, people are now understanding what your business is about. They are getting told what the business is about through the people who work there. They're being inspired to go to your business by the people that work there. If you are managing, if you are just watching the figures, if you're just caring about how your profits and losses are going, then you're going to be detracting yourself from your people. They are going to be one of your most important resources when you're delivering. And that could be in an IT capability, in a maintenance capability, in an HR role, depending on how large you get. Assess and measure your own performance and theirs. Let them know how they're doing. If there are problems, it is far better to address it sooner rather than later before those issues start escalating and you end up with staff walking out, or you end up with a bad culture or a mentality. Your marketing then starts getting affected, your branding, and your business is slowly just going to ebb away. One very useful question: would I work in this business if I had a boss just like me? Don't be afraid to ask yourself that. When you're looking at your business plan, when you're reviewing that business plan, ask yourself that question. So, in summary, some of the key success factors for you to basically take on board, reconsider, look at moving forward. Hopefully this has provided you a good understanding and a good starting point for those business basics moving forward. You may be an established business looking to expand, or it may be that you've come up with a new idea and you are a startup. All of these can apply to business as usual as well. It's good to understand where you're going. Try and minimize your negatives and focus on your positives, and keep yourself ahead of everybody else. So that is the conclusion on my half of the presentation. At Crowe Horwath, we ourselves have a vast offering of services, and there's a few of them listed up there for you. If you do have any questions that either we don't have time for today, I'm happy to take them on board through Leanne, and you do have our details if you wish to expand these conversations further. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Will. It was great to be able to listen as well as watch a very clear presentation or explanation of those key success factors. And it has prompted a number of questions that we have here. So I'm just going to look at those now. Early on in the presentation, you mentioned about outsourcing, and Clinton's asking about which type of activities to outsource. Do you outsource core or non-core activities?
I think it's a worthwhile question, and it's quite an important one. It's understanding, and I will come back to the whole business plan, identifying what it is that is potentially or a good question, sorry, to ask is what repeated and non-core tasks prevent me from undertaking my core activity. Okay. If you are able to outsource your non-core activities, that is often a very good starting point for broadening your experiences or broadening your exposure in the marketplace until you get into a stronger position. You may have more capital to be able to actually bring on board some of those assets internally. But it may be, and I acknowledge that these businesses could be anything ranging from an IT capability to a hands-on health perspective. And it's looking at understanding what is it that you are very good at from a core perspective and what are you not good at from a core perspective. The core business is going to be the most important, and arguably often when a business is starting up, that's the area you feel most comfortable in. But at the same time, there could be key elements you are unable to deliver. So I would say that non-core is often the way to focus to begin with, because the view is that your core activity is something that you are comfortable with and have a good understanding of, but everybody will be different. So look at your own business, look at your own core activities and non-core, and work out what you can and can't pick up and what you would then need to outsource.
Thanks, Will. Makara is asking about business plan templates. Can you recommend where she could get download one for free? Or I know that there are plenty that you can find on the internet, but then you have so many to choose from. You can download 100 and still not feel comfortable with any of them. So do you have any advice about accessing business plan templates?
It's a very good point. Off the top of my head right this minute, I couldn't tell you a specific one that I have personally or could recommend. I am aware of the fact that the government do have new business and startup business templates. It's actually one that my wife used, and it works very effectively for a general overview. Google is obviously quite a useful one, and the advantage of, if you are Googling a business template, is trying to potentially throw in words which are specific to your offering. If it's an IT service, then there is going to be stuff that focuses more on potentially the background, the IT or software capabilities, rather than potentially a hands-on shopfront, which may only touch loosely on the IT from a website or financial background. So unfortunately, I can't give a specific answer, but I am aware that the government one does provide some very good initial points and consideration, which can then be expanded based off either this presentation or a bit more research into your specific area.
Thanks, Will. You mentioned the business scorecard. That's a concept that might be new for some people. You know, business plan, business model, business scorecard. What else do we need, and how do we use it, and how do we get one?
A business scorecard is very, very similar, and often, if you're looking up for the first time, a balanced scorecard is a very effective and straightforward way of looking at key factors that you need to consider in respect to your business itself. So it's identifying from a scorecard perspective what it is you need, what it is you want to be achieving, how you're going to get to that space itself. Consider the growth. what are your key targets to cover your overheads? Looking at it from a financial perspective, which is often the easiest way to reference it, you're looking at what your sales are going to be. Okay, where are you going with your business? How much money are you going to need to set aside? If you're looking at an export component, okay, what are you looking to have to provide? How much is it going to cost to export? Therefore, are you considering a logistic business? Are you taking on board an external provider? Is it something you can internally provide? A very straightforward setup could be that you are running a floral shop and you have to deliver 10 sets of flowers a day. Is that far easier for you to go out at a predetermined time to head out? Or financially, you're in a position on your scorecard that you have identified once you are selling over 15 flowers that it is better to have an external provider that you can pay a one-off fee and they can do all of that running around. In doing so, you're then taking on board, yes, you've got an additional outlay, but all of a sudden you have gained 2 hours back in your day from a financial perspective. Again, looking on Google for a particular scorecard which may assist you, there are plenty out there. Personally, it is one that my wife developed from a health perspective, and she took one of the very basic templates and just expanded it. So it's understanding what is going to be relevant to yourself and working out what you think is a realistic target. From the scorecard perspective, if you're going too high and you're failing to achieve your anticipated goals, then you're really going to be basically taking a personal knock and undermining yourself, and actually you could be doing a very, very good job.
I agree, Will. I believe that scorecards are very useful for helping to measure yourself rather than just working off anecdotally how you're feeling about running a business. The scorecard helps you to get some perspective on it and what's really the problem and what's really being successful. There is the age-old problem, and I'd be interested in your tips on this about working on the business and working in the business, because if you've talked about creating or making sure you keep abreast of what the current trends are. So when it comes to working about finding the time, because we've all got 168 hours a week each, and we don't want to spend it all on the business. So what are your suggestions for finding that balance between working on the business and working in the business?
I think that that is a very, very key question, and it's one that personally my wife and I often battle with. As a project manager, what I found very key when we decided to set up a business was laying out a 7-day week and identifying how much time over the first month, then the first 3, and then over the initial 6 months we will be spending as a collective setting it up. Now, everybody's timeframes will be different, but in the initial stages you are going to be spending a lot of time prior to ideally getting your business live. You're going to obviously be developing the concept. You need to be working on where your business is going. Getting that business plan laid out at an early stage will make your life much easier when you move forward and your business starts going live. It may be, depending on what your core business is, that you yourself are the only person who is able to deliver the initial service offering. If that is the case, then you're acknowledging you are spending a lot of time getting that initial cash flow going. If you've got if you have a good business plan, then you are going to be able to spend far more time in the early stages delivering what your service offering is. Understand, though, as part of that business plan, what your milestone is that you know all of a sudden you've now hit it. You now need to be focusing back on the business plan and looking at the overall perspective of the business. For our own setup, we'd established that my wife was required to be seeing 10 patients a week before there was a need to outsource and receive assistance in delivering her service offering. And that was based on the fact that she wanted to do school drop-off, and she wanted to do school pick-up, and she wanted to have time in the evening with the family. So when we were developing our initial time frame, we took all of this into consideration. It may be that you have no kids, no partner, and you can spend a decent amount of time focusing both on the strategy as well as the actual service offering. If, however, you've got other complications which are then going to be eating into your time, factor those in. Do not, in the early stages, set yourself up in a position where you are going to be working 24/7, because it is physically not possible. You will burn yourself out and you will end up delivering a substandard either service offering or strategy. Right at the start with your business plan, set yourself clear goals. Understand realistic expectations. Everybody would love to be the next Apple, the next Airbnb concept, but the reality is there are going to be lots of businesses that are actually just looking to deliver a decent salary on an annual basis. Work out where you want to go. If it is a 12-month or a 5-year plan, understand what targets you need to be hitting to get to that point. So recommendation is, off your business plan, you're going to focus in the early days on actually delivering your service offering, but know what your key point is. Part of your balanced scorecard, what stage is it that you are going to be hitting where you are outsourcing elements of your business? The time that you're outsourcing means that all of a sudden you are gaining time back into your business. If you can then focus out on your strategy, looking to expand, looking to grow, that is the best way to reassess, recheck your business plan, make amendments if required, and then head on to the next stage.
Thanks, Will. Derek's got a question along these lines again. When you are cash poor and you need to perform all tasks, but you know you've got to, keep your learning up to date. So which non-core learning areas or material types would you recommend for a business that is that can't afford a lot of training and can't afford a lot of time off for training?
So there are a lot of very useful tips, webinars and opportunities that you become very aware of once you start basically searching the net, looking in your particular areas. The government website again has a few tips and tricks and links for potential opportunities. Everybody's business, I apologise for continually coming back to this, but you will have different outlayers and different expectations, and it's knowing what your market and service offering is. From a staying ahead of the field, you need to have a good understanding of what your field is before you start rolling that business out. The free webinars are always a great opportunity, and in this environment these days there are more and more becoming available, and they're very easy to get hold of the PDFs or get the slide packs and provide that initial reading or that initial understanding. Something which I spend a lot of time doing, I commute, so I'm sitting on a train for half an hour, 40 minutes every morning, and I'm sitting there and I may have downloaded a pack the night before, I've seen something of interest, I've noted through a conversation with a client a potential topic or area of interest, and I'll just sit there and spend 20 minutes just flicking through. You don't need to have a detailed understanding unless it is a particular area that you're looking to go into and expand. But it's just getting that broad overview. Stay on top of what's going on in your particular field, in your particular area. I appreciate that that is not the perfect answer, but it is one where it's a good idea to just keep abreast of everything that's going on. There's lots of opportunities and there are lots of things out there. There's lots of business notes or newsletters that come out from particular fields or government websites. Sign yourself up for them and just keep yourself on top of what's going on.
Thanks, Will. I think that is a challenge for everybody, no matter what business they're in, is to keeping up with either the trends in the industry or the trends in marketing business, and often quite a pressure to be across everything. So I feel for you, Derek, that you need to ask that question. And technology is fantastic these days because we can do things. We can train ourselves. We can learn new things sitting on a train, even standing on a train, because it's in the palm of our hand. And it's still possible to balance the family things. You know, while you're waiting for soccer practice to finish, you can be going through and, you know, perhaps listening to a podcast or flicking through notes. I think the key thing is, and I'm sorry, jumping in here and offering my advice as a trainer, is to find the learning style that works for you. If your learning style is reading, then collect all your information in a format that you can use, and it might mean printing it. But if your learning style is best by listening, there's certainly plenty of things on YouTube and on government websites, plenty of podcasts to learn from. That's my 2 cents worth. Do we have any further questions coming through? I don't have any in the list here. Were there any last call for final questions? Okay, we're going to finish up with the webinar now. Do you have any final points or gems to offer the audience?
I think my only final points would be that good luck for all of you. It's an innovator's world these days. I attended a seminar recently by a CEO of startups, and he said that we need to change the way that we look at business. It is no longer a question when you're sitting at home with your son or daughter asking them what they want to be when they grow up. The question now is, what do you want to change when you grow up? There are so many opportunities out there. Anybody can be anything, and it is never too young or too old to start. I retired, in inverted commas, at the age of 31 after serving 9 years in the British Army, and decided I wanted to try something completely different. So I then got out and I went into a whole new ball game. Anybody has the opportunity to do that, and everybody has got their own ideas. We are enabled these days by a real service offering within the web. There are always opportunities, there are always links, there are always ideas, and it is now easier than ever to be able to reach out and touch everybody globally. And if you've got an idea that you think could be the next great business, don't be afraid to have a go. We are very well supported. There are grants available for startups. There are a real startup culture being enabled by the government at the moment, and it's making the most of those opportunities. There's people out there who can assist you. I do obviously mention the firm because we do have specific offerings, but don't be afraid to chat to friends, family, people who may be doing something. Go down to the local shop owner, have a chat with him. How did he go? So don't be afraid to reach out and talk to others and make the most of the opportunities. But good luck to all of you, and hopefully these 10 golden rules have assisted you today in taking your business idea to the next level.
Thank you so much, Will. It's been terrific having you as part of the Queensland Small Business Week 2017 webinar series, and you've kicked us off very well. For everybody else who's still tuned in, we have webinars running at this time every day throughout the week, and tomorrow we'll be listening to Catherine Warburton talking to us about intellectual property law and intellectual property management. So thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. You've got a last couple of seconds to download the presentation from the handout section, or you can send an email requesting that from Innovate Queensland. Thanks again, everybody, and I join with Will in saying good luck with your businesses. Bye for now.